I'm Marcus. I'm 23. And this is the most unexpected, ridiculous, emotionally messed up, and somehow beautiful story of my life. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more powerful stories. Thank you. It started with betrayal. The kind that hits you in the chest and knocks the air right out of your lungs. The kind that changes the way you trust people forever. I grew up in a small suburb where everyone knew everyone. One of those towns where your neighbor knows what you're having for dinner before you do. You wave at the same people every morning. You pass the same faces in the grocery store. You date someone and suddenly the whole block has an opinion about it. I was the kind of guy who kept his circle tight. No drama, no big scenes, just school, work, and family. I was never the loudest guy in the room, never the one chasing attention. I minded my business, helped out at home, and stayed loyal to the people I cared about. That was my whole personality, loyalty. My sister Ivy and I were close. Not the kind of close where we sat around braiding each other's hair, or anything dramatic like that. But the kind where we had each other's backs. Always. Even when we were too stubborn to admit it. Ivy was a year younger than me. She was wild in a way that made people stop and look. Smart, scary smart, but also impulsive. She never thought twice before speaking her mind. She'd get herself into messes and laugh her way out of them. She drove me crazy, but I loved her. She was my little sister. The one person I'd defend in a heartbeat, even when she was dead wrong. Especially when she was dead wrong. And then there was Jordan. Jordan was my best friend since we were 11. The kind of friend who knew where the remote was at my house better than I did. He was over all the time. My mom called him her second son. He was there when my dad left. He was there when I broke my arm in 10th grade. He was the guy who'd roast me in front of everyone but punch anyone else who tried. We shared everything, music, video games, bad takeout, our worst secret. I trusted him with my life. So when he and Ivy started acting a little weird around each other, I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe they were just getting older. Jordan would tease her, she'd roll her eyes, and I figured it was just typical sibling friend nonsense. Then it changed. Slowly. They got quieter when I entered the room. I'd walk into the living room and feel like I had interrupted something. Ivy started asking more questions about Jordan. Jordan would bring Ivy snacks when he came over, not me. Little stuff. Subtle. And I ignored it. Because the alternative? The idea that my best friend and my sister were hiding something from me? That they were sneaking around behind my back? I wasn't ready to go there. Until the day they both disappeared. Gone. No note. No explanation. No warning. Just silence. It was a Friday. I remember it like it just happened. I had just finished a long shift at work. I was exhausted, already daydreaming about microwaved leftovers and some late-night gaming. I walked into the apartment and immediately sensed something was off. Too quiet. Our place was never silent. Ivy always had music playing or a podcast running in the background. But that day, silence. I walked past my mom in the kitchen. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Her face was pale, and she didn't say anything at first. Ivy's bedroom door was cracked open. I stepped in. Half her stuff was gone. The dresser drawers were pulled open and empty. Her laptop, her phone charger, the hoodie she never went anywhere without, all missing. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I called Jordan. Same thing. I felt the room spin. I opened Instagram. Just instinct. I don't even know what I was hoping for. A clue maybe. Something. There it was. A blurry photo of a train station. 2 backpacks leaning against a bench. No faces. The caption? Fresh start. No looking back. I clicked Jordan's story. There they were. Jordan and Ivy. Smiling. Together. Not a care in the world. That moment? It broke something in me. It wasn't just shock. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the deep, hollow ache of knowing that the two people you would have died for had chosen each other and left you behind. No goodbye. No explanation. Just gone. And that was the moment everything changed. The first night after they left, I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. My room felt colder, even though the thermostat was fine. Everything felt wrong. Her room was still half empty. Her scent still lingered in the hallway. I could still hear Jordan's laugh in my head, echoing from the last time he was over. I laid on my bed, eyes wide open, replaying every conversation we'd had in the last few months. trying to spot the signs, trying to figure out how I missed it. Or maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe part of me knew. Maybe part of me let it happen. By morning, I wasn't tired. Just numb. The messages started rolling in. First from people I barely talked to, high school classmates, neighborhood friends, even an old coach. They all said the same thing in different ways. Hey man. You okay? What happened between your sister and Jordan? You seeing this? Wild. Wild. Yeah. That's one way to put it. My phone buzzed so much I finally turned it off. I couldn't take it. I didn't want pity. I didn't want gossip. I wanted peace. Just silence, and not the kind that stings like this one. The kind that doesn't remind you that you were the last to know. The one left behind. My mom tried to act normal. She cooked. She cleaned. She turned up the volume on the TV. But I saw her. I saw the way her hands trembled when she passed me my coffee. The way her eyes lingered on Ivy's door. We didn't talk about it. Not yet. I tried going to work. I couldn't focus. I stared at my computer screen for 2 hours straight one day before my boss gently told me to take some time off. So I did. I sat at home. I walked around aimlessly. I watched random YouTube videos that didn't make me laugh. I kept thinking, how did everything fall apart so fast? And then, out of nowhere, came a message. From someone I never expected. Her name popped up on my screen like a ghost from a different lifetime. Claire. Jordan's older sister. Someone I hadn't talked to in years. And that single message changed everything. It wasn't long. Just a simple, hey. I heard about Ivy and Jordan. I'm so sorry. That was it. No drama. No lecture. No long explanation about how it was going to be okay. Just that. And somehow, it hit harder than anything else. Claire was 3 years older than us. Back when we were kids, I remembered her being like the cool older sister, the one who knew all the good music before it was cool, who dyed her hair red just because she was bored, and who once broke up with her boyfriend via mixtape. She had moved to another city years ago for work, and we'd all lost touch. But there she was, checking in when no one else really knew what to say. I didn't even know why I replied. But I did. Maybe because she wasn't trying to make it about her. Maybe because she didn't try to force a conversation. Or maybe because I just needed to talk to someone who wasn't part of the whole mess. Our conversation started slow. A few messages, then some longer ones. She told me she was shocked too. Said Jordan hadn't mentioned anything to her, and when she found out, she felt just as blindsided. Apparently, he hadn't told anyone. Not even their parents. He and Ivy had taken off and left everyone in the dark. And that kind of betrayal? It didn't just hit me, it hit Claire too. She wasn't angry. She was just disappointed. She said something that stuck with me. You think you know someone. Then one day, they vanish with your little sister. Yeah. I felt that in my bones. We talked almost every night after that. At first, it was about them, how they left, what it meant, how we were coping. Then it became about other things. Random things. Funny childhood memories. Dumb stories from school. Shows we liked. Food we missed from our hometown. It was easy. Natural. Talking to her felt like a soft place to land. And after the week I had, I needed that more than I realized. One night, she sent me a picture of her cat sitting in a laundry basket, looking like it owned the world. I laughed for the first time in days. Like actually laughed. The kind of laugh that surprises you because you forgot your body could still do that. That was the night I realized something strange was happening. Out of all the people in the world, I was finding comfort in Jordan's sister. And for the first time since Ivy and Jordan vanished, I didn't feel angry. I felt curious. I didn't know what that meant yet. But I was about to find out. The day Claire invited me for coffee was one of those days where everything felt too heavy. Rain against the window, silence in the house, and 100 unanswered questions swirling in my mind. She messaged me just 3 words, "Coffee this weekend?" I hadn't seen her in years, not since high school. Claire was Jordan's older sister, the mysterious one who always seemed like she had her life figured out. She used to be a blur in the background, smart, confident, always in a hurry. But now, suddenly, she was the only person who didn't make me feel like a walking tragedy. We met at this little cafe tucked between an old bookstore and a florist. The kind of place that smelled like cinnamon and fresh paper. It wasn't crowded, and that felt right. We didn't need noise. We already had enough of that in our heads. She waved when she saw me. There was no awkward small talk. No pretending. Just a long, quiet moment before we sat down. We talked. About everything. About nothing. We talked about how betrayal makes the world look unfamiliar. How one decision, one selfish move, can rip through families like wildfire. She told me about how her parents didn't even know where Jordan had gone, how ashamed they were, how much it hurt. And I listened, because it helped to know I wasn't the only one carrying the weight. Our conversation drifted from deep wounds to lighter things. We joked about the worst school lunches we ever had. We complained about work. She told me she still listens to sad playlists while cleaning, and I admitted I've been sleeping on the couch just to avoid seeing Ivy's empty room. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was just real. That one coffee turned into a second meetup, then a third. Sometimes it was lunch, sometimes it was a walk in the park. No pressure. Just presence. Claire had this calm energy. She didn't try to fix anything. She didn't feed me advice or pep talks. She just showed up. And when your world's been cracked open, someone showing up means everything. Over time, our conversations changed. We started sharing more than just updates. We talked about dreams, hers of maybe starting a design studio, mine of leaving the town someday and starting fresh. We talked about fears too, hers about being stuck in a cycle of disappointment, mine about never trusting anyone again. And somewhere in all of that, something shifted. One night, we went to a small art gallery. Claire loved art, she moved through the space like it was her own world. I mostly stared at her while she stared at paintings. Watching her talk about brush strokes and light made me realize how beautiful it is to see someone care about something so deeply. On the way home, she played an old mixtape, the kind that skips between songs and feels like a ride through your own memory lane. We laughed. We got quiet. Then we laughed again. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel broken. I felt human. Whole, even. That night, lying in bed, I caught myself smiling. I was thinking about Claire. And that scared me, because she was Jordan's sister. And he had betrayed me, hurt me, left without a word. But Claire wasn't him. She was the opposite of him. She stayed. She showed up when I needed someone most. And whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was falling for her. Not out of revenge. Not to balance the scales. But because she made the world feel safe again. And in a world full of chaos, she felt like home. Falling for Claire wasn't some cinematic moment where the world slowed down and violins played in the background. It was slower than that. Realer, like when winter starts to shift into spring and you don't even notice until you wake up one morning and realize it's warm again. We weren't dating. We weren't even flirting. It was just connection. Something that had grown quietly between shared coffees, evening walks, and the kind of conversations you don't have unless you've been broken open. But the thing about healing is, it's unpredictable. Some days you feel like you're finally moving forward, and other days the past hits you like a truck. One Sunday afternoon, we were sitting on a park bench, people watching. Claire handed me a piece of a soft pretzel she'd bought from a street vendor and said, "You think they'll ever come back?" She didn't have to say their names. We both knew who she meant. I shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe they're already living some new version of reality, and we're the ones stuck in the old script. She didn't respond for a moment. Then she said, "If they came back, would it change anything?" That question lingered in the air like smoke. Would it? I thought about Jordan. The guy who knew my deepest secret. Who sat next to me in every major chapter of my life. I thought about Ivy. My sister. My blood. The person I trusted even when we argued. They didn't just leave. They took trust with them. And no, I didn't think I could go back to pretending everything was fine. I don't think I'd want it to change anything, I finally said. Because then I'd have to admit I've been waiting. And I'm not. Claire didn't say anything. She just nodded. That kind of nod where you can tell she's feeling the exact same thing. That evening, I invited her over for dinner. Nothing fancy. Just spaghetti and garlic bread. We talked while I cooked, and when we sat down to eat, it felt like something had shifted again. Not because of anything big, but because she was there, at my table, filling the silence with laughter. Bringing life back into a space that had felt dead for weeks. After dinner, we didn't want the night to end, so we put on an old movie neither of us paid attention to. At one point, I looked over and saw her curled up in the corner of the couch, half asleep. And in that moment, I didn't feel alone anymore. I knew something real was growing between us. But I was still afraid. Afraid of how people would see it. Afraid of how Jordan would react if he ever found out. Afraid of losing her too. I didn't know where it was all going. But I knew I didn't want it to stop. Not now. Not when I was finally starting to feel like myself again. Claire wasn't just helping me heal. She was reminding me what it felt like to be seen. Really seen. And even if we were walking on a fragile line between friendship and something deeper, I wasn't going to run from it. Not this time. At first, it was our secret. Not in a shady way, but in a fragile, protective way. Like we were both afraid that speaking it out loud would break the magic. But the world has a funny way of catching on. It started with little things. A neighbor saw us at the grocery store, laughing by the cereal aisle. Then a coworker spotted us at the Sunday market, holding coffee cups and walking a little too close. People talk. And when two people are healing in public, the whispers get louder. My mom was the first to ask. She didn't ask directly, but her tone shifted. "You've been going out a lot lately," she said one evening while clearing the dishes. "It's good to see you smile again." That's all she said. But I heard the unspoken part. Who is she? And then came the night Claire and I ran into one of Jordan's old friends, someone we both knew from school. He gave us a long, puzzled look, said a slow hey, and then sent a message to Jordan. Claire told me later that her brother texted her the next day, "What's going on with you and Marcus?" She didn't reply. Neither did I. Because honestly, we didn't know what was going on. We were spending more time together. Dinners turned into sleepovers, not romantic ones, just the kind where you fall asleep on the couch watching reruns of a show you've both seen a dozen times. One night, she brought over homemade cookies, and I swear they tasted like something out of a childhood dream. I told her I could never bake like that. She laughed and said, "That's okay. You cook. I bake. We'd make a good team." That word, team, hit different. We were a team. Not in a big, dramatic, label-driven way. Just in the way we showed up for each other. Picked up each other's pieces. Shared space without asking for anything more than honesty. But we both knew that couldn't last forever. Because real life was catching up. People were starting to ask questions. Ivy and Jordan were still gone, but their absence was like a shadow that stretched across everything we were building. Were we betraying them? Were we allowed to find joy where they had left pain? It's strange how guilt can sneak in, even when you've done nothing wrong. One night, we sat on my balcony watching the stars. Claire looked at me and said, "Do you think this is okay? Us?" I didn't answer right away. Because I knew what she meant. Not just okay morally. Okay emotionally. Okay socially. Okay in the eyes of people who didn't understand the nights we cried separately and healed together. "I think it's more than okay," I finally said. "I think it's the first thing that's felt real in a long time." She smiled. Not a big smile. Just a small, grateful one. And for the first time, we didn't feel the need to hide. Not from the world. Not from ourselves. Not even from the ghosts of those who left us behind. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. The kind of day where life feels like a loop: work, coffee, sleep, repeat. Claire and I had plans to grab dinner. I was chopping vegetables in the kitchen when my phone buzzed. A message. From Jordan. 3 words. "We're coming back." I froze. Literally stopped mid-chop. My hands started shaking, and for a moment, I thought maybe I was dreaming. But it was real. After months of silence, they were coming back. Claire was supposed to be at my place in 20 minutes. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell her? Should I pretend the message never came? Should I scream? Break something? Laugh? Instead, I sat down. Just sat there and stared at that message until Claire rang the doorbell. She walked in with her usual warm smile, holding takeout and a new vinyl she'd found at a thrift store. When she saw my face, the smile vanished. I told her. She didn't speak for a full minute. Then she sat down next to me, gently placed the takeout bag on the floor, and whispered, "So now what?" That was the question, wasn't it? Now what? The days that followed were a blur. Rumors spread quickly. Apparently, Jordan and Ivy had been living in some coastal town, trying to figure things out. Whatever that meant. They were moving back into the city. No apologies, no explanations, just back. Everyone around us seemed more interested in the drama than the damage. Old friends messaged me out of nowhere, pretending they cared. Family members asked polite but loaded questions. And through it all, Claire and I kept meeting like nothing had changed, even though everything had. One night, she asked, "Do you think we should stop?" I knew what she meant. This connection we had nurtured, quietly and honestly. I didn't want to stop. But the guilt was louder now. More people knew. More eyes were watching. And somewhere in the background, Ivy and Jordan were probably talking about us too. It all came to a head the night Jordan called me. He didn't ask how I was. He just asked, "Are you with Claire?" I told him yes. There was a long silence. Then he said something like, "Guess we're even now." Even. That word hit me like a punch. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was never about that. It wasn't tit for tat. I didn't chase Claire to get back at him. We found each other in the ashes they left behind. We chose peace while they chased chaos. And maybe that's why it hurt even more, that he couldn't see it for what it was. Claire heard about the call. I didn't hide it, and that night, as we sat under the string lights on her back porch, she said something I'll never forget. "We didn't fall into this. We built this, brick by brick, tier by tier." She was right. What we had was real. And no text, no rumor, no past mistake could take that away from us. The day they came back felt like a thunderstorm you could hear approaching from miles away. Everyone sensed it. The air was heavier, like it was holding its breath. Even the quiet moments didn't feel quiet anymore, they felt tense. I ran into Ivy first. In the grocery store of all places. She looked different, not physically, but something in her eyes. Like she'd aged a decade in a few months. She didn't look guilty. Just tired. Worn down. She didn't speak at first. Just stared at me from across the produce section. I didn't speak either. I wasn't sure if I was angry, sad, or just numb. When we finally did talk, it wasn't dramatic. There were no raised voices. Just two people who used to be close, now standing miles apart emotionally. She said she was sorry. I didn't say anything back. Because I didn't know how to forgive something I still didn't understand. Later that week, Jordan showed up at my doorstep. Claire wasn't home. It was just me. He looked like he wanted to apologize, or explain, or maybe justify what he did. But the words didn't come out right. They never do when you've broken someone's trust and expect them to give you an easy way back. He asked me if I hated him. I told him I didn't. I told him I just didn't trust him anymore. And that was worse. Trust takes years to build and seconds to break. And what he broke wasn't just friendship, it was everything we built growing up. Every late-night conversation. Every dumb inside joke. Every promise. He tried to joke about Claire to lighten the mood. I didn't laugh. Because it wasn't funny. Claire wasn't a rebound. She wasn't a revenge plot. She was the person who sat with me in the dark and helped me find the light again. He asked if I loved her. I said yes. For the first time, I said it out loud. And hearing myself say it, it felt like breathing after being underwater. He didn't react much. Just nodded, like he finally understood that whatever we had before was never coming back. And that was okay. Because I wasn't going back either. That night, I told Claire everything. The grocery store moment. The doorstep conversation. Saying I loved her. She looked at me with eyes that said she already knew. We didn't need a big confession. We just needed to keep choosing each other. Every day. Even when the past came knocking. There's a moment when all the noise finally settles, and you hear yourself clearly for the first time. For me, that moment came a week after Jordan's visit. Claire and I had taken a day off, no calls, no emails, no errands. We drove out of the city to a quiet lakeside cabin her aunt used to own. It wasn't anything fancy, just wooden floors, a hammock on the porch, and the kind of silence you can't find in the city. We needed to breathe. To step away from the storm and remember why we had started all this in the first place. By late afternoon, we were sitting on the dock. Feet dangling over the water, cold drinks in hand, letting the wind do all the talking. Claire turned to me and said, "I don't want to keep looking over my shoulder." I didn't ask her to explain. I felt the same way. We had spent so much time being cautious. About what people would think. What Ivy or Jordan would feel. What our families might say. But love, real love, doesn't bloom in the shadows. And that day we stepped into the light. We talked about our future for the first time. Not just vague ideas, but real plans. She wanted to go back to school. Finish her degree in psychology. I wanted to start a small business, something creative, something mine. We talked about apartments. Maybe not right away, but eventually. One with a balcony and a kitchen where we could dance barefoot while cooking dinner. The more we talked, the more I realized this wasn't about proving anyone wrong anymore. It was about building something right. Later that night, I held her hand as we lay under a sky full of stars. And I realized I didn't care who knew about us. I didn't care what Jordan thought, or Ivy whispered, or what anyone else assumed. Because they had left. And she had stayed. That was all the clarity I needed. She had stayed. Even when I was at my lowest. Even when I didn't recognize myself. And that kind of love? You don't let it slip away. Not for guilt. Not for anyone's approval. Not for the past. So I made a decision that night, to stop waiting for permission. And start living like I deserved to be happy. When you know, you know. That's what people always say about love. And I used to think it was just something people said to sound poetic. But when it hit me, it was quiet. Gentle. Like a puzzle piece finally finding its place. Claire and I had been through enough together to know the value of small moments, the quiet dinners, the shared playlists, the glances that said more than words. We had built something steady. Something calm. Something we both needed. And one morning, I woke up beside her, sunlight spilling across her face, and I just knew. I didn't want to keep waiting for life to give us a perfect time. I just wanted forever to start. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called her Mom. It felt weird at first, like stepping into shoes that weren't mine yet. But her mom was kind. She laughed when I stumbled over my words. Said she'd never seen Claire happier. And told me to go for it. That evening I cooked dinner. Real dinner. The kind with 3 courses and candles and soft jazz playing in the background. She came in wearing one of my oversized hoodies, hair pulled up, no idea what was happening. I didn't have a ring. I didn't have a speech. Just the truth. I told her I didn't want to go another day wondering if we'd make it, because deep down, I already knew we would. I asked if she'd build a life with me, brick by brick, just like we had built everything else. She said yes. No hesitation. No drama. Just a soft yes that melted into my chest and made everything finally feel still. We didn't post it online. Didn't tell everyone right away. We just held each other longer that night. Sometimes love doesn't need fireworks. Sometimes it just needs hope. Fast forward a year. We're married now. It wasn't a huge wedding. We didn't care about seating charts or color themes or impressing people we barely knew. We just wanted the people who mattered. A small garden, fairy lights, and a playlist made from every late-night drive we'd ever shared. Claire looked like peace. That's the only way I can describe her that day, calm, sure, glowing in a way that wasn't about makeup or dresses. It was the glow of someone who knew they were exactly where they were supposed to be. I didn't cry when she walked down the aisle. I cried when she looked at me like I was her home. Because I'd spent so long feeling like I didn't have one. After everything with Ivy and Jordan, I thought maybe love just wasn't for people like me. That maybe trust was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. But Claire rewrote all of that. She showed me that love isn't about grand gestures or revenge stories. It's about quiet mornings and inside jokes and believing in someone even when they forget how to believe in themselves. We live in a small apartment now. Nothing fancy. The kitchen's too small and the neighbors are loud, but it's ours. And every corner of it tells a story. There's the mug Claire accidentally broke and glued back together because it was my favorite. There's the bookshelf we built, crooked but still standing. There's the couch where we fell asleep watching old sitcoms after both of us had awful days. Life isn't perfect. We still argue about dishes. We still have days where we doubt ourselves. But we always come back to the same place, each other. I don't think about Ivy much anymore. Or Jordan. They're part of the story, sure. But not the whole story. The real story started the day Claire said yes. And every day since, we've been writing new chapters. Chapters about healing. About choosing peace. About finding love in the most unexpected places. So if you're watching this, wondering if the pain will ever stop, it does. Not all at once, but slowly, like the way the sun rises after a long night. You just have to keep walking toward the light. And one day, you'll look up and realize you're home. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more powerful stories. Thank you.